Hello. I'm your host, Stack Banks. You're now tuned into the Millionaire, Millennial, the most powerful financial podcast in the world. And we are coming to you today from our offices instead of my apartment, like usual. But I just want to talk to you guys a little bit about a couple things, chiefly, namely, among them being, well, first and foremost, let's start out like this. My name's Stack Banks. You guys can check us out on YouTube, Instagram, Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Music, I believe Spotify, Pandora, all the above. All your social media, pretty much everything except Facebook. Check us out on there, and then we'll also have clips of different things within these episodes, hopefully that are of value to you guys. So the whole aim of this podcast is to give you guys some value in whatever means that applies to you in about 20 minutes or less. Not every episode is going to apply to everyone. Some of them are going to be different. Some of them we're actually going to bring on other CEOs and entrepreneurs and ask them a couple different things about maybe what they've done in their journey, or things they've learned that have helped them in their journey. But we have touched on a variety of topics as of late, from very quickly investing in the crypto markets and, to a degree, the stock markets. Also, we've talked about very, very briefly blockchain and crypto and what that means, and understanding what that means. And then I've also talked about how it's up to you guys to make sure that you understand what it is that you're getting into. Don't take what I say as financial advice. This is just a bit of advice, a bit of education for you guys, and a starting point for you guys to begin your own research. And hopefully the things that I provide to you guys are of value and are useful to all of you, but some of you may have already came across this information in your own entrepreneurial journey or savings journey, or whatever that may be. And maybe some of the things that I speak to don't necessarily impact you specifically, or don't address some of the things that you want to know about. If that's the case, please let me know in the comments on YouTube, on our TikTok, on Instagram, so I can start talking to you guys about the things that you want to hear about, and bring on some of the entrepreneurs and creators on these different platforms that you guys want to hear from. So today, on today's episode, I want to talk about a couple different things. I don't have necessarily a list for a sheet, but I want to talk about, number one, what are some of the biggest misconceptions when it comes to getting into business as a young entrepreneur, some of the things you can and can't do. And then also, what are some of the things that you guys can do today to actually start a business for yourself? Actionable things, or things that you can do that can get you on the right track if you don't know necessarily what business to start, what you're interested in, how to figure those things out. So number one, one of the biggest things that you hear in business is that, that it takes money to make money. That's not necessarily the case. Sometimes it does. I won't say that there's no barrier to entry in any field. Some things really do take specialized equipment to get started, but more often than not, it takes, in my personal opinion, a will and a desire to even do what it is that you're getting involved in. If you want to be an entrepreneur, a lot of it is going to be trial and error. A lot of it is going to be education and talking to people who have either done what you're trying to do before you, or getting your education through sources like this, where you're actually watching someone tell you what they've done. Maybe you don't know them personally, and then you're having to sort through what of that information applies to you. Like with this podcast, like I said, some entrepreneurs or some people who are already in the entrepreneurial space are not going to get much from this, or maybe they will. Maybe it'll be something that helps them refocus on the basics. But so number one, that it takes money to make money. That's not necessarily true. In some industries, it does. I won't say that you're going to become the world's greatest venture capitalist if you don't have any money to do that with. But I'm sure there have been plenty of people who could tell you an amazing journey and story, and we'll have them on this podcast hopefully as the season goes on and time goes on. So get that out of your head. Number two, I think one of the biggest misconceptions when it comes to business is that you have to know somebody in that space in order to get involved in it. You don't have to know anyone or have a family connection to any business to get involved in that business. It takes a will and a drive and a desire to. YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, all these things are free. And as much as they are sources of entertainment, there are ways for you guys to reach out to creators. It's a way for you guys to reach out to experts in the field of whatever field you're interested in, right? And through them promoting their business and using these platforms, a lot of it is an education for you guys as well. And so if you're interested in working with certain people, or you have a drive or desire to network with these people, make sure that you follow their social medias and tap into what they have going on, especially the Millionaire Millennial. But make sure that you're tapping into the communities around them, right? There's a lot of information out there on YouTube, on TikTok, on Instagram, Facebook, whatever, where people are coming together in the comment section, and like-minded people will share information and will have channels themselves. And a lot of them are very open and receptive to working with other people, giving out free information. A lot of people have free ebooks, free courses. Don't think that just because someone has something to sell you at some point doesn't mean that the free things they give away aren't of use, or that you can't find creators or creatives on these platforms who will talk about the things that you're curious about almost offhand, right? Like there are creators on TikTok, YouTube who are accountants, right? And they might address things that you have questions about business wise in their podcast or whatever that you'd normally have to probably pay someone for. But this person, because they're trying to take the value that they have in whatever professional field they have and transfer it over to social media, a lot of it becomes essentially free game, right? So having the ability to sort through what is a sale to you, right? What is someone trying to shill to you? And not saying necessarily those things are bad, but if you're someone that's trying to get as much information as possible, as cheaply as possible, right? It's probably of benefit to you to pay attention to the creators that give things away for free and understanding what those things are, right? And I'm not talking about t-shirts and things like that. And all that stuff's great, promotional material. I'm talking about the value and the information that you're getting from them. Okay. So that's number two. And then I'm trying to keep this under 20 minutes per usual, but another point that I wanted to touch on with those of you who are watching this and wondering, Stack, you're talking about being an entrepreneur and going into business and all these things. How do I do that? Okay. So number one, the biggest thing that you need to do, especially when it comes to being an entrepreneur and figuring out being in business, is understanding what business are you going to be in, right? So a lot of people, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't be in a business that you love, but you should be in business doing something that you know and something that you can make money at. And that might sound simplistic, but there are a lot of people who are in businesses that they love, and it's a labor of love, and they are making no money, right? It's something that they might even be losing a lot of money because they're doing something necessarily that they're not qualified to do, or something that is not cash flowing, but they're putting a lot of money into it, and so it's costing them a ton of money, right? Or think of it like a restaurant owner, right? There's a lot of people who, and there's a lot of NBA players, NFL players, guys who will test this. They get a big signing bonus, and then people come out of the woodwork to them and go, "Hey, I got a great restaurant. You should invest in blah blah blah. I just need $1 million or $500,000, $250,000, whatever." And these guys will, they sign all the paperwork, put the money up, and then a year into it, as the business is declining and they've spent $1 million or $2 million or $3 million, realize they don't know anything about running a business, or not even necessarily running a business, but running a restaurant in particular, right? They don't know about hiring staff, what type of staff they should hire, creating a menu, having a staff that can do that. Probably, I mean, there's so many different logistical and analytical pieces that go into differing businesses, right? And then you have your profit margin, how much money you're actually going to be able to make out of whatever business you're in, selling whatever items that you're selling after your overhead and things like that. And a lot of people don't consider that. And so over time, they realize they're in a business and that business is struggling and it hasn't made them any money. It's cost them a lot of money. And I think a lot of that can be avoided by taking some time before, and you don't have to get a bunch of money or to start these businesses. There's a lot of people who bootstrap and get funding and, take their hard-earned savings and launch businesses themselves every day across the world and in America in particular. But a lot of the disasters that you see entrepreneurs experience could be avoided if people would take a little bit of time and a little bit of some concentrated foresight, and do some research and sit down and figure out what it is that we're in business to do. Make sure that you get a business plan together. If those of you who don't know how to create a business plan, I will probably go over that at some point in this series. Comment below if that's something that you want me to go into. But making a business plan and understanding what's the roadmap of the business, figuring out what type of business it is. Are you a profit, nonprofit, sole proprietorship, S corp, C corp? There's a lot of, well, not a lot. There's a couple different tax elections that you can choose for your business, and figuring out what those are going to be, figuring out what you're going to pay Uncle Sam is massive to the core of your business, right? And then figuring out what's your vehicle, you personally as an entrepreneur, that you want to use to get to whatever I think the number is in your head that creates stability, or whatever the goal is, right, in your head that you see the business as, right? Is it, I want to grow my hot dog stand from a hot dog stand to 2 or 3 trucks, or to a restaurant, and I keep using restaurants, and it's not a business I'm necessarily in, but have been in at some point in my life. But I'm trying to break it down in terms that most people understand, right? That whatever business you're getting into, you need to figure out what it is, right? Understanding your tax elections and things like that, you should definitely sit down with an accountant, and attorneys if you have them. If not, there's a lot of people who have a ton of great material out there that can lead you guys along in the right direction as far as that goes. And I think we might have some material up where I might get into that as well as this series goes on. But figuring out what's the vehicle, right? If you're someone that you want to make $100,000 over the course of a few years, and you have XYZ type of business, right? Or you're wanting to start XYZ type of business, you should understand what goes into creating that business. And also having realistic expectations of that business, right? You might be someone that goes, okay, I want to have a business because getting rich sounds great, or not having a job or not having a boss sounds great until you realize that being the boss, you have to work every day. Otherwise, there is no business. And all the money that goes into the business is going to come directly from you and from your efforts. So you have to look at whatever business it is that you're thinking about going into and really asking yourself, is that a business I want to be in? Number one. And number two, is this business going to get me to whatever financial goal that I'm trying to reach? Right. So if you're someone that wants to make $1 million and you want to do it in a year, and your dream is to sell $1 hot dogs on the corner, well, how many hot dogs do you need to sell in order to hit that? Selling 1 million hot dogs in a year might be a bigger challenge than you initially thought. And that might lead you to some other business principles that we'll also talk about later on. But some of those being, raising your price, understanding, what is the vehicle that you're using to get rich, or, whatever your personal goal is. I personally like to focus on business growth, not necessarily a number coming out of that business per year back to me. That's always great. But I think there has to be a bigger, and that's another point I wanted to touch on too. I think one of the biggest misconceptions about business is that you just get into it and you get rich. Being in business takes a lot of effort. For some people, I mean, they do have moonshots and things happen very quickly, and they have amazing stories, and good for them. But for most people, it's a struggle. And I believe something like over 50% of businesses out there fail eventually, I think within the first 3 years. I have to look into the statistic, but there's a lot that goes into starting a business, maintaining a business, starting a business, maintaining a business, and then also evolving and growing a business. And each stage of a business requires different levels of expertise and knowledge and know-how, and it all hinges both on the founder and the people who work there. And I won't get too far into that because I think we're approaching probably close to about 20 minutes or so. But a couple of the things I want you guys to be left with is, number one, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, sit down and figure out a business plan and your business path. Figure out the taxes of the business and how that's structured, and the actual structuring of the business, whether there's shareholders, investors, if you're the CEO, if you have partners, whatever, all of those things should be in the very beginning of the business ironed out. Even if it's just on a napkin, you guys should have a roadmap. And then figuring out what it is that you're in business to do and where are you going. And then to not be so focused on the money. You should be focused on the money as far as not frivolously spending it, but you should be in business doing something that you're knowledgeable about, or something that you're highly passionate about becoming knowledgeable about, and something that you are willing to pursue despite any connection or inclination of anyone else to help you along that path. And I think that's some of the basic tenets of entrepreneurship, and a couple nuggets of advice to get you guys along the way. I don't think it's all encompassing, and it's not meant to be. And time goes on. Hopefully I can bring some people on that will give you guys better perspectives more than just my own, because my experience will speak to those who relate to it. And then I'm sure there'll be others who don't appreciate my perspective, or think I oversimplify things or overcomplicate things, or I'm too vague. Like I said, please, in the comments, let me know what else you want to learn about as the series goes on. Follow us on TikTok, on Instagram, YouTube. Links are above and should be down below. Check us out. So Spotify, Amazon Music, Pandora, Google Cast, and Apple Podcasts as well. I am your host, Stack Banks. You can find me at stackbanks.official on Instagram. Links are all in the bio. You're now tuning out to the most powerful financial podcast in the world. I'm your host, Stack Banks. Peace.